Welcome to Part 1 of the Sage College's new student online training. In this session, we will go over the policy section of the Student Code of Conduct. Following the completion of this video, you will need to complete the associated quiz. Instructions for the completion of this quiz will be provided at the end of this presentation. So, what is misconduct? At SAGE, misconduct is any violation of college policy committed by a SAGE student. A violation of college policy occurs when a student violates one or more college policies. For example, Jim enters another student's room named Carlos and steals Carlos's iPhone. A student attempts to violate a college policy but is unable to complete the act. Jim is caught by public safety before he can leave Carlos's room with the iPhone. A student assists or convinces another person to violate college policy. Jim persuades Carlos's roommate Steve to steal the iPhone for him. Any policy violation or attempted policy violation committed by a student's guest. Jim's girlfriend Stacy, who is not a SAGE student, steals Carlos's iPhone. It is important to remember that misconduct can occur both on or off campus, and that students are held accountable for their decisions regardless of where those decisions were made. The SAGE College's jurisdiction and discipline may be imposed for conduct which occurs on the college's premises, college's sponsored or sanctioned off-premises activities, such as college-sponsored housing. For example, the University Heights College Suites on our Albany campus. Co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, internships and field placements, co-curricular or off-campus trips, general research, or for conduct which in and of itself adversely affects the SAGE College's community and or the pursuit of its objectives. It also applies to all students, including those who are online and or part-time. So, Jim's actions would be considered misconduct if he took the iPhone from Carlos's residence hall room, from Carlos's car in the parking lot, or from Carlos's back pocket while they were walking down New Scotland Avenue. It is also misconduct whether Jim is a resident student, a commuter student, an online student, or a part-time student. Ignorance of a policy is not an excuse for misconduct. All students are expected to know and understand SAGE's policies as outlined in the Student Code of Conduct. To help you with this, we will now go through the SAGE College's conduct rules and regulations. Acts of dishonesty. Acts of dishonesty, including, but not limited to, the following: cheating, plagiarism, or other forms of academic dishonesty. We'll go over academic dishonesty more thoroughly in Part 3. Furnishing false information to any college official, faculty member, or office. Forgery, alteration, or misuse of any college-recognized student organization's name, emblem, symbols, facilities, or property including college parking permits. Tampering with the election of any college-recognized student organization. Computer theft, unauthorized use of computers or accounts, or allowing others access to an account. Illegal or improper use of the college's phone system. Forgery, alteration, or misuse of any college document. Disruption or obstruction. Disruption or obstruction of teaching, learning, research, administration, disciplinary proceedings, or other SAGE College activities, including its public service functions on or off campus, or other authorized non-college activities when the act occurs on the SAGE College's premises. Actual or threatened physical violence, intimidation, or coercion. Actual or threatened physical violence, intimidation, or coercion, including but not limited to actual or threatened violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault, relationship violence, and other forms of physical abuse. Verbal abuse. Verbal abuse of any person, in person, or through any social media, email, mail, telephone, or text is prohibited. Harassment. Harassment, whether verbal, written, or otherwise, including, but not limited to, sexual and other harassment, as defined in the SAGE College's Discrimination and Harassment Complaint Policy and Procedure. You can find the full discrimination and harassment complaint policy and procedure in the student handbook, available online at sage.edu/student-handbook. Actual or threatened conduct. Actual or threatened conduct that directly or indirectly threatens, endangers, or interferes with the health or safety of another person, or which adversely affects the Sage College's community and or the pursuit of its objectives. Theft and damage. Attempted or actual theft of and or damage to property or services of the Sage Colleges or any other person or entity. Stalking. Stalking, pursuing, or intentional unwanted engagement with a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to fear harm to physical, mental, or emotional health, safety, employment status, or property of such person, a member of the person's immediate family, or a third party whom the person is acquainted. Such behaviors include, but are not limited to, telephone calls, voice or text messages, following to the residence hall, class, work, or other daily activities, letters, emails, gift giving, instant messaging, or using social networking communities to collect personal information. Hazing. Hazing is defined as any action or situation which recklessly or intentionally endangers the mental or physical health or safety of a person or persons, or involves the forced consumption of liquor, drugs, or other substances, or which destroys or removes public or private property for the purposes of initiation, admission into, affiliation with, or as a condition for the continued membership in a group or organization. The express or implied consent of the victim will not be a defense. Apathy or acquiescence in the presence of hazing is also considered misconduct. This means that even if someone agrees to participate in hazing activities, they are in violation of the code of conduct. It also means that students present during hazing activities, even if they are not participating, are committing misconduct. Failure to comply. Failure to comply with the directions of any Sage College officials or law enforcement officers acting in the performance of their duties, and or failure to identify oneself to these persons when requested to do so. The Sage College officials include faculty, staff, administrators, public safety officers, as well as some other student-held positions like resident assistants. Keys. Unauthorized possession, duplication, or use of keys or electronic access cards to any of the Sage College's premises, or unauthorized entry to or use of the Sage College's premises or any other entity. This includes loaning your residence hall keys or room keys to another Sage student. Violations of other Sage College policies. Violation of other Sage College policies, rules, or regulations published in hard copy or available electronically on the Sage College's website, including but not limited to alcohol and drug policies, tobacco-free policies, parking regulations, residence hall policies, library regulations, technology acceptable use policy, and student life policies. These policies can be found online in the Sage Student Handbook, available at sage.edu/student-handbook. Federal, state, and local laws. Conduct which could be construed to be a violation of federal, state, or local law is prohibited. Drugs. Use, possession, manufacture, or distribution of marijuana, heroin, narcotics, illicit drugs, including prescription drugs being used by or possessed by an individual without a valid prescription for that drug, or other controlled substances except where expressly permitted by law. The odor of marijuana will be treated as a violation. This means that the smell of marijuana on a person, in a vehicle, or in a residence hall room is a violation of Sage's drug policy and will be treated the same as use or possession of that substance. Drug paraphernalia. Use, possession, manufacture, illegal purchase, or distribution of drug paraphernalia, such as but not limited to pipes, bongs, hookahs, or scales, including but not limited to all items used for the purpose of preparing, injecting, ingesting, inhaling, or otherwise using illegal drugs, or in the illicit use of legal drugs is prohibited. All paraphernalia will be confiscated. Alcohol. Use, possession, manufacture, illegal purchase, or distribution of alcoholic beverages, except as expressly permitted by law and the Sage College's regulations, is prohibited. Alcoholic beverages may not, in any circumstance, be used by, possessed by, or distributed to any person under 21 years of age. Being under 21 years of age and in the presence of alcohol is prohibited. The collection of and displaying of empty alcohol containers is also prohibited. All alcohol will be confiscated. Two important things to note here is that students under 21 years of age who are in the presence of alcohol, say in a residence hall room where other students are drinking, are in violation of the policy even if that student is not actively consuming alcohol. Secondly, alcohol containers, even empty ones, are a violation and will be treated the same as the use or possession of alcohol. Appearance of intoxication. Conduct which demonstrates public intoxication or signs that indicate the use of alcohol, drugs, or other harmful substances. Weapons. The possession of firearms and other weapons are not permitted on campus or in the residence halls at any time, not even for display purposes. This includes, but is not limited to, rifles, shotguns, pistols, revolvers, machine guns, paintball guns, BB guns, pellet guns, switchblades, collectibles, gravity knives, swords, bows and arrows, stun guns, either real, imitation, toy, or antique weapons, ammunition of any kind, and any martial arts weapons. Also prohibited are explosive or incendiary devices. Dangerous instruments. Possession of any dangerous instrument, toxic or poisonous substance, or chemical other than for use in a supervised academic setting. Fire safety. Any attempt to intentionally or recklessly start a fire or cause an explosion and/or contribute to an unauthorized fire. In the case of emergencies or emergency drills, refusal to leave or the prevention of a college official to evacuate a building is prohibited. Tampering with fire or safety equipment, for example, fire alarms, door alarms, fire extinguishers, exit signs, emergency phones, fire doors, sprinklers, or smoke or heat sensors, is a violation of law and can result in a criminal penalty as well as student conduct action. The fire safety policies for both the Albany and Troy campuses can be found in the Residence Hall Policy section of the Sage College's Student Handbook, available again for review at sage.edu/student-handbook. Candles. Candles burned or unburned and with or without a wick are prohibited from all buildings. In addition, the use of potpourri and incense is also strictly prohibited. Any prohibited items found in residence hall rooms or other areas of campus will be confiscated and disposed of by the Office of Residence Life or the Office of Public Safety. False reporting. Falsely reporting an emergency, such as falsely reporting a bomb, fire, or other emergency in any building, structure, or facility on college premises or at any college-related function by activating a fire alarm or by any other means. Disruptive demonstrations. Participation in a campus demonstration which disrupts the normal operations of the Sage Colleges and infringes on the rights of other members of the college community. Leading or inciting others to disrupt scheduled or normal activities within any campus building or area. Intentional obstruction which unreasonably interferes with the freedom of movement, either pedestrian or vehicular, on obstruction of traffic. Obstruction of the free flow of pedestrian or vehicular traffic on the Sage College's premises or at a college-sponsored or supervised function. Disorderly conduct. Conduct which is disorderly, lewd, indecent, or a breach of the peace. For example, conduct which is disruptive, disturbing, or offensive to others, or aiding, assisting, or encouraging another person to breach the peace on the Sage College's premises or at functions sponsored by or participated in by the Sage Colleges or members of the academic community. Harassing conduct. Engaging in conduct which has the intent to harass, demean, or alarm another person, including, but not limited to, initiating communication via mechanical or electronic means, social network communications, telephone, texting, mail, computer, email, or other form of written or pictorial communication, texting or making a phone call or calls whether or not conversation ensues with no purpose of legitimate conversation. This policy states that SAGE students are responsible for their conduct on social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, and that they will be held accountable for harassment that occurs on the internet. Unauthorized surveillance. Unauthorized surveillance, including but not limited to any unauthorized use of electronic or other devices to make an audio or video record of any person while on the Sage College's premises without his or her prior knowledge or without his or her effective consent when such a recording is likely to cause injury or distress. This includes, but is not limited to, surreptitiously taking pictures of another person in a gym, locker room, or restroom, or any other place where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. Abuse of the computer system. Theft or other abuse of computer or telephone systems or time, including, but not limited to, unauthorized file access to use, read, or change the contents or for any other purpose, unauthorized transfer of a file, unauthorized use of another individual's identification and password, or allowing another person use and or access to one's MySage or voicemail account identification or password, use of computing or telephone facilities to interfere with the work of another student, faculty member, or Sage College official, use of computing or telephone facilities to send obscene, threatening, harassing, or abusive messages, use of computing or telephone facilities used to interfere with the normal operation of the Sage College's computing system, use of the computer or telephone facilities in any way which could be construed as a violation of federal or state laws, use of the computer or telephone facilities in any way that could be construed as copyright infringement, any violation of the Sage College's acceptable use policy. Again, you could read the full Sage College's acceptable use policy in the student handbook at sage.edu/student-handbook. Abuse of the student conduct system. Abuse of the student conduct system, including, but not limited to, failure to appear before a student conduct board or appellate board or college official if requested, or willful failure or refusal to cooperate as a witness unless doing so would incriminate oneself. Falsification, distortion, or misrepresentation of information before a student conduct board or appellate board. Disruption or interference with the orderly conduct of the student conduct code proceeding. Initiation of a student conduct code proceeding knowingly without cause. Attempting to coerce an individual from proper participation in or use of the student conduct system. Attempting to influence the impartiality of a member of the student conduct board or appellate board prior to and or during the course of a student conduct code proceeding. Harassment, verbal or physical, and or intimidation of a member of a student conduct board or appellate board prior to, during, and or after a student code of conduct hearing. Failure to comply with the sanctions imposed under the student conduct code. Influencing or attempting to influence another person to commit an abuse of the student conduct system, and institution of a student conduct code proceeding in bad faith. Gambling. All gambling or betting activities, with the exception of small, private, card, or other games which do not involve monetary bets or involve monetary bets of very small amounts. Responsible social conduct. Students are required to engage in responsible social conduct that reflects credit upon the Sage College's communities and to model good citizenship in any community. Guests. Any guest or other person on the Sage College's premises may be ejected from the premises if he or she appears to be engaged in misconduct or poses a threat to the safety or well-being of others, or is disrupting the normal operations of the Sage Colleges. The guest policies for both the Albany and Troy campuses can be found in the Residence Hall Policy section of the Sage College's Student Handbook, available for review at sage.edu/student-handbook. Acts of complicity. Acts of complicity, aiding, abetting, attempting, conspiring, hiring, willfully encouraging, or being an accessory to any violation of the Sage College's Code of Conduct. Smoking. Smoking and the use of any other tobacco product is strictly prohibited. The Sage Colleges are dedicated to providing a healthy, comfortable, and productive living and work environment for our faculty, staff, administrators, and students, and a healthy, comfortable, and safe environment for our visitors. The tobacco-free policy prohibits the use of any and all tobacco products on Sage's Institute facilities or property. For the purpose of this policy, tobacco is defined as any type of tobacco product, including, but not limited to, cigarettes, commercial, handmade, or electronic, cigars, cigarillos, pipes, hookahs, oral tobacco, both spit and spitless, smokeless, chew, and snuff, or any other smoking material or device. Retaliation. Students have the right to be free from retaliation. Threats or other forms of intimidation or retribution against a student who files a complaint or grievance, reports a conduct violation, requests an administrative remedy, participates in an investigation, appears as a witness at an administrative conduct hearing, or opposes an unlawful act, discriminatory practice or policy, are prohibited and subject to the college disciplinary procedures. Any student who feels that someone has subjected him or her to retaliation as a report or participation in an investigation of a report should come to a compliance officer immediately. The Sage College's discrimination and harassment complaint policy and procedure for students can be found in the Sage Student Handbook, again available at sage.edu/student-handbook. Congratulations! That's it. You've now completed the video portion of Part 1 of Sage's new student online training. Please proceed to Quiz 1, Policies, and complete the assessment. All students are required to score at least a 90% to pass this part of the course. You may retake the quiz as many times as you need to achieve the 90%. After you finish the quiz, you can move on to Part 2 of the new student online training, which will discuss the student conduct process.